critical trends for retailers. We will be discussing the synergy between technology, retail, and analytics. We'll discuss why you need pioneers, warriors, stalwarts. But before we get started, I just want to say thank you to our sponsors, eCapital Advisors, who are experts in getting and utilizing data to improve retail businesses. Their core competency is a comprehensive view of a company's retail environment. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I consider myself to be a retail warrior, having served the industry for over 25 years across various functions, including store operations, marketing, merchandising, and human resources. I've had the pleasure of working with both established retailers as well as startups. In addition, I'm a professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology. Courses I teach revolve around retail market strategy, financial strategy, and leadership. The way I explain it, I teach the business side of the fashion industry. eCapital Advisors is recognized in the industry as an analytics company who helps retailers to unlock the value of their data and be able to look at business opportunities to drive performance. Today, our agenda is we will discuss the retail landscape in the context of technology deployment and innovation. We will review the 3 critical trends to help drive future performance and set up a process for continuous improvement. We will discuss the collaborative, synergistic model between technology, retail, and analytics. And you'll learn why a connected enterprise is the key to future business success. Lastly, you'll understand my newest quote, which was, as we move into 2020, you can't do it alone. You have to build partnerships and collaborations that align with the overriding retail market strategy. So when we talk about the connected enterprise, this leads to hyper-personalization, which is really the future of next generation retail. There's 3 areas. The first is synchronization of retailers. So established retailers are finally beginning to synchronize across various channels. And these would be in the internal areas of hierarchy, infrastructure, and data collection. In the past, these established retailers have always lived in silos, and they've always kind of addressed the business with their own separate agendas. Now what we're seeing is these retail companies are really looking at a more synchronized approach to benefit the customer experience. The second area is synthesized information and data analytics. And this includes data integrity, data fidelity, cross-functional analytics and analysis. There's many different sources of information and data that retailers collect. So being able to properly synthesize the data to make a more comprehensive view of what's happening in the retailer from a holistic perspective. So data-driven decisions can be made. And the last piece is really this idea of hyper-personalization. And it's really about product curation, it's about dynamic pricing, and preemptive distribution. Preemptive distribution is really precisely positioning products to a keenly identified market and delivering those to customers who, when, where, and how they want it. While we don't go into great detail on the area of preemptive distribution, you can read about this in my 2020 trends, which I'll show you at the end of our discussion today. But our goal today is to understand the benefits of collaborative partnerships, to discuss technology deployment as a process and a winning strategy, and lastly, to illustrate the importance of synthesized analytics to deliver hyper-personalization. So typically, we're going to start with our critical trends, number one, which is going to be retailer collaborations with technology and analytics companies. So typically, there's a lot of retail technology companies out there that are on the market, and this plethora of technologies promise many different results. Many of the technologies promise we're going to drive growth, or we're going to reduce expense, or technologies that are going to drive higher customer engagement. The amount of technologies that's currently on the market is astonishing and probably overwhelming for most retailers. From a retailer perspective, trying to decipher, understand, and prove which technologies best resonate with the target market and make a significant positive financial gain is a daunting task. Recently, at the National Retail Federation Big Show in January, just walking through the show floor, you would just see the amount of technologies that are available on that marketplace. So retailers have different ways of deciding on which technology to use. There's different approaches. The first approach is really using labs, and there's kind of two areas of using labs. Some companies have an actual innovation lab, typically close to the home headquarters, where various functions can go into the lab and test different technologies. Other companies have retail labs within the portfolio of stores. So they may have identified 4, 6, 8, 10 stores that they constantly are testing new technologies in. So either approach works, and it's really different based on the various retailers. The other way that decisions are made on technology is through committees. So typically, one of the most common ways is through cross-functional committees. Cross-functional committees allow each function to be represented as all technology is being discussed. This allows for a more comprehensive view across all the different functions of different technologies and which ones will be deployed throughout the organization. And the last way that decisions are made on technology is what I call DBHT, which is decisions by the highest title in the room. And unfortunately, with the high turnover in leadership positions in our retail industry, this type of decision-making creates havoc on the company, culture, and the environment. The other area, as a caution for established retailers, is fail early, fail fast, fail often. So Silicon Valley technology companies have mastered this whole premise of fail early, fail fast, and fail often. And they are able to do this because they are nimble, they're innovative, and they have great pliability. Established retailers don't have the ability to be as nimble as the technology companies. The Silicon Valley edict is about constant tweaking in an iterative process. And many established retailers, unfortunately, incorrectly interpret this process as try it. If it fails, try something else. And unfortunately, when incorrectly executed, fail early, fail fast, fail often has a severe negative impact on company culture, employee turnover, financial performance, and most importantly, on the customer. This method simply does not work for established retailers. So let me talk to you a minute about the 4 characteristics for success in technology deployment. There's money, culture, environment, and grit. So when we first talk about money, companies obviously have to have the financial capital to be able to invest in the various technologies and to be able to scale and deploy them. The second area or characteristic is culture and appetite for technology. This is much easier for startups than for established retailers. And let me give you an illustrative example of culture and appetite for technology. I once worked with a retailer who wanted to put iPads in the stores, thinking it would help associates with product knowledge and information about the current selection of merchandise. Unfortunately, when the iPads were sent to the stores, most associates weren't familiar with iPads, didn't know how to use them, and there was no information sent when these iPads were deployed. So they sat on a shelf unused. The third characteristic for successful technology deployment is the physical environment. There has to be a physical environment that supports technology. This includes IT infrastructure, it includes accessibility and support. Again, I'll give you another illustrated example where a company wanted to implement training videos for all the stores so they could become better acquainted with the various products within the stores. And working with the company and understanding their kind of idea to use videos to train the associates on a wide variety of products, when we were out walking the stores, what we found was that all the stores within the portfolio of stores didn't have the proper bandwidth to be able to support all these vendor videos that they wanted to use for training. So again, you have to have the ability to support in a physical environment the technology that is being considered to be deployed. The fourth characteristic is grit. Grit is being courageous to make decisions which may seem impossible, even though those decisions are exactly right for the customer. And again, I'll give you an illustrative example of this one. So 5 years ago, a high-end luxury company, retail company, wanted to give iPhones to every single associate. So if you reflect back 5 years and you think about, wow, we're going to give every single associate an iPhone, it was absolutely right for that high service environment and that particular retailer. But imagine sitting in that room when this decision popped out as an idea about giving cell phones to every associate. Think of human resources and their reactions, think of the legal team's reactions, think about the amount of turnover, or just the sheer logistics of being able to implement giving every single associate an iPhone. However, that company had grit. They were courageous, they made that decision, and when you fast forward 5 years, that decision for that company was one of the best decisions that they made. So having grit and being courageous about technology decisions is a key characteristic in technology deployment. I would even say that when we look at Retail Trends 2020, I would even say there's actually 5 characteristics for success. The fifth one being this whole idea of technology and analytics partners and why this is so critical for success in technology deployment. We're going to talk about this in more detail, but there's one factor that's true across all retailers today. They can no longer use in-house resources to build out the variety of technologies that management teams want to implement across the various functions. Partners are the key to success. So let's talk a little bit about these partners. So the first partner are the technology companies. The technology companies have vast experience in innovation, and they can really help retailers collaborate the science of technology with the strategies of the retailer. They're experts at the innovation cycle. They have the newest technological applications, and they also have a great understanding of technology limitations. And last but not least, technology companies obviously have a very high technical skill set. The second partner, when we talk about the keys to success, are the actual retail companies. Retailers are experts at trade. They have an exceptionally deep customer knowledge. They know their customers. They know the shopping journey. They know what's important to their individual customers throughout the company. Retail companies also understand their own limitations, whether that be the physical environment, whether that be funding, but they recognize within their own company what their limitations are. And lastly, retail companies, they know their own company culture. They know their company culture and they understand what types of technologies would work and which ones may not work as well. And the last kind of partner, when we look at the keys to success, are analytics companies. So analytics companies are experts at data fidelity. So when we look at all the different sources of data that retail companies can use, whether it's in CRM, customer relationship management, whether it's in marketing, store operations, when you look across all the different areas of a retailer and where data is coming from, we have to make sure that the different buckets of data and how it's coming in have fidelity across all the various areas where data is being collected. The other aspect of analytics companies is they have a very objective view on software. So when you think about it, and if you think about eCapital Advisors as an example, the primary goal of an analytics company is to build a long-term solution-based relationship for the retailer. In other words, they got your back. They're the wingman or the wingwomen. Analytics companies can provide a single source of the truth. They also provide a very unbiased view and can build up a comprehensive view across all data sources. So when we look at this triad of technology plus retail plus analytics, it unleashes the power of data analytics in the context of the retailer's own strategy and culture, resulting in deeper customer engagement and better financial performance. Let's look at an illustrated example. So we have analytics companies and we have retailers who deploy several different types of technologies across a business, whether it's in-store analytics, looking at the shopper journey or marketing, CRM, planning, merchandise assortment. Adaptive Insights is a company that can take the collected data, ensure data fidelity at various points, synthesize the information, and then present back a comprehensive view to all functions, which then allows retailers to make data-driven decisions. So eCapital Advisors is an example of a company that would work alongside a retailer to find the best solution for data analytics. So in this case, Adaptive Insights closely works with small to medium-sized companies, whereas in a solution like IBM Analytics, they would most likely work for a larger, more established retailer with complex systems within the organization. So another way that I like to look at this partnership between tech, retail, and analytics companies is really looking at a retailer's view of the shopper journey, which is transitioning from backward lamenting to forward innovation. So I look at the tech companies as really the pioneers in the space. They are the pioneers. They're out there. They're ahead of everybody else. They're very innovative. You partner the pioneers with the warriors. The warriors are the retail companies. These are the retail companies. They're out in the field. They're fighting the battle. They're there with the customer. They have the hands-on experience. So they're the ones out there. And then you have the stalwarts, which are really the more steady and true. These are the companies that are going to give the foundation. They're going to pull everything together so that the pioneers and warriors can be successful in the retail shopping journey. These powerful decisions, when you match the pioneers, the warriors, and the stalwarts, you really can come away with some powerful decisions that result in KPIs that are driving performance across the organization. So let's talk about critical trend 2. Critical trend 2 is really important in terms of synchronized technology deployment. So synchronized technology deployment really involves 3 areas. It involves innovation, cycles, and strategy. And synchronized technology deployment uses a team to make strategic decisions across the various functions of the business to support a better customer experience. It also reduces duplication of efforts across the various functions within a retail organization, and it prudently uses capital to fund technologies that align with the overarching strategy. Let's take a look at these 3 areas. Synchronized technology deployment. So the first area to really foster innovation is through labs. We talked a little bit about labs earlier. So you can use labs or you can use cross-functional teams that are really constantly looking at, technologies that would resonate with their target market and their customer experience. There has to be a systematic and measured approach inclusive of all stakeholders in the business, and the customer must be at the dead center. All decisions across the organization in terms of technology deployment should absolutely be centered around the customer. The second factor is this idea of continuous cycle times. So you have now, in terms of what technologies should we be implementing now, what technologies should we be thinking about in the 1 to 3 year range, and what technologies do we need to be thinking about in the 3 to 5 year range. It is critically important to have technologies consistently in each of these time frames. That's how you can ensure this continuous innovation in the organization. The third factor is development strategy. So interestingly, development strategy in the past for many established retailers was to take everything in-house. So I'll give you an example. 10 years ago, when labor scheduling was something a lot of retailers wanted to implement, many of the larger retailers wrote the software in-house and developed their own labor scheduling programs. But today, quite frankly, there's just too many technologies across too many functions in the same time frame that are trying to be deployed. So businesses really need to decide which to build in-house, if any, and which to use partners for. So the advantage with using technology partners is they have the ability to scale the business faster, and they come with the technological experience, both intellect and infrastructure, to deploy at a faster rate. However, building technology in-house provides customization and proprietary technology, which also can lead to a sustainable competitive advantage. The decision comes down to bandwidth, internal capabilities, and probably appetite for risk. So in looking at synchronized technology deployment, it really allows the synchronization and a holistic view of all technologies being considered in a retail environment. This idea of synchronized technology deployment supports a synergistic customer journey, reduces duplication of effort and expense across functions within a retail organization. It optimizes capital funding and supports the retail market strategy. So on to our third critical trend, price and product personalization. So we're going to end our conversation with price and product personalization. And this whole idea is really the overriding premise of hyper-personalization. There's been a lot of discussion about the shopper journey and the key elements of personalization. There's also been much conversation about the connected journey, which talks about the shopper and being connected throughout the various journeys across the multiple channels that retailers have. But moving into 2020, a critical trend of hyper-personalization is through product curation, precision pricing based on data analytics, and around specific customers or segment of customers. We will also see more opportunities of price and product bundling based on customer preferences. So price and product personalization goes beyond the scope of traditional customer relationship management programs, and it allows a deeper data analytics to understand a subset of shopping behaviors and predictive analytics. There are companies that optimize merchandise assortment by customer buying preferences, not just by location, which is what has been the trend in the past. There are emerging technology startup companies that can precisely pinpoint pricing models by customer segment or create bundling packages for customers. This is a win-win as it meets the customer's specific needs, but also allows companies to increase inventory turn and margin by precisely identifying the customer needs. Let me walk you through an illustrative example. Alan Edmonds, many of you may or may not know Alan Edmonds, but Alan Edmonds is a US-based manufacturer of premium men's footwear and accessories. And according to the Director of Retail Inventory Planning and Analysis, offering customers a perfect fit is a key competitive differentiator for the company, but they have to stock so many variations of each item, which results in a considerable complex environment. A fun fact about Alan Edmonds is that the company has to stock approximately 100 size and width combinations for each shoe style. So the challenge is, from a sales, inventory, and margin perspective, is to be able to make sure that when the customers are in the store, you have the right shoe and the right size at the right store at the right time for every customer. So it's critical that information and decisions are made quickly. One of the biggest challenges is being able to make accurate, timely business decisions based on the amount of stock and the locations, the amount of stores that they have to get product into. So eCapital Advisors actually worked with Alan Edmonds on a solution which would address their very specific concerns and also follow their brand strategy. The cloud-based IBM Analytics solution was a big success, and that was the recommended solution for Alan Edmonds, which allowed them to achieve the KPIs that they had desired. So let's end our conversation today talking about, I only have one key takeaway today, which is that we're moving from silos to connected enterprise. The retail industry as a whole has always been a very hierarchy, structured, silos, all working individually. And as we move into 2019 and into 2020, what we're going to need to be successful is a more connected enterprise. And I'll end where I started by stating that as we move into 2020, retailers cannot do it alone. Build partnerships and collaborations that align with the overriding retail market strategy. So I want to thank all of you for participating today in our discussion. And before I take a few questions, if you have not already read my Retail 2020 Trends that was recently published, you can find this in the Robin Report. Please take a look at it. I take a deep dive into hyper-personalization and preemptive distribution. And I also want to thank eCapital Advisors once again for sponsoring our conversation today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Hey, Shelley, thanks again for hosting today. I don't see any questions coming across on our plate in either the chat or the Q&A.
Great. I want to thank everybody for their time today. And I've left on the last slide here how you can reach eCapital Advisors or myself. Would love to continue the conversation about retail tech and analytics.
Thanks so much for joining, everyone. We'll be sending out a recording to all registered and attendees in the following few days.